and welcome to Stan's 360 World, Stan's 360 Travel Channel. I'm your host, Stan Hariza. Today I am here at the Don Edwards Wildlife Refuge, which is off to your right, my left, and I'm on the edge of the San Francisco Bay. These wetlands are part of our bay's ecosystem now, fortunately. For a while they weren't, so let me give you a little history of this area. You go back to the big gold rush, 1849, and everybody rushes to San Francisco and the surrounding areas. We can also go back further to the missions and stuff like that. You've got Mission San Jose was out that way, Mission Santa Clara was out that way, and the San Jose Pueblo was set up nearby here initially and was moved back years later. But really in the area, the major change for this area came with the gold rush. Because post-gold rush, there was a population boom, and a lot of people strive to find ways to make money. And one thing that people did was by the 1880s, they were starting to levee in the bay, then let the bay waters evaporate, and then they would harvest or collect the salt. And so this here was a man-made salt pond, and this was the levee that they created to divide out this salt pond. There still are some salt ponds here in the Bay Area. I doubt if the camera can make it out, but off in the distance there's a white mountain, and that is salt collected from the bay. Fortunately, in modern times, I'll call it, there's been a major push by locals to reclaim these lands for the bay. So that brings us to the Don Edwards Wildlife Refuge here. 1974, about 10 acres of land and area were set aside for a wildlife refuge. And then in 1988, Don Edwards was a congressman, and he helped push to get a lot of wetlands recovered. And in '88, they got an additional 20 acres dedicated to this site. And it wasn't until the 1995 that the area was truly opened and dedicated to Don Edwards. So, and then more recently, in the past 10 years here, I would say somewhere around 2010, 2012, the wetlands here were opened up to the bay. So other things that you'll see here at Don Edwards, obviously you have the wildlife, you have the bay, you have this beautiful open view of the Bay Area. But you come in from Don Edwards and there's a center here. A lot of the school kids are brought to this to study. There's some classrooms in there. The upper floor there, you can look out and see over the whole refuge area. There's a exhibit in there of the Ohlone Indians, because there's been artifacts found all around the Bay Area of the Ohlone Indians living here. So some other points of interest that I can point out to you. I'll walk around this side here. I'm probably now between you and Levi Stadium. I don't know if you could see that, but that's Levi Stadium out in the distance. This would be Alviso, Mountain View, on to San Mateo and up to San Francisco in this direction here. Coming around, you have a bay, and then this area here would be Fremont. And then if you watch my Man on a Mission blog, that's Mission Peak out there. There's an island here called Newbie Island, which is a garbage dump. You can also see another garbage dump here, the Zanker Road dump, being active beyond the grounds here. And then my hometown of Milpitas is back this way. So that's kind of a walk around of what you'll see in the area here. One of the other things that I like about the area that I wish we had more access to is halfway between Alviso and Fremont, there is a little area here out this way that the railroad tracks they decided to put along, and they had to cross a bridge, and then they went onto an island and then had to cross another bridge and then into Fremont. Well, over here they put a shed about 1890, I think it is, that they built a shed, and somebody lived on the island, and they would lower the drawbridges for the trains to come through, and then they would raise the drawbridges because places like Dixon Landing Road were actually a boat landing where fruits and vegetables and produce and everything that was grown here would go to San Francisco. And so those boats would be going through, so they would raise the bridges for the boats to go through, and then they would lower the bridges for the train to come through. So initially you just had one shed with a guy living on the island. But then the train would stop to change out the shift. And so people would get off the train and go, hey, this is kind of a neat area. And so they started building buildings there. By the 1920s, there were over 1,000 buildings in the area. No roads, absolutely no roads, just the train to get there. And it was a popular duck hunting, bird hunting, fishing area to go on the weekends, and the population would go up. And then by the 60s, they decided to shut it down, and they start clearing the area. And so the last person moved out in 1996, I think it was, somewhere in there, somewhere in the 90s. The last person moved out. Some of the buildings are still there. They're sinking down into the bay. I have been out there. Years and years ago I went out there, and the buildings have some electrical power, not still, but they have the electrical wiring, and it was Edison wiring, to where you have one positive cable, direct current wiring I should say, and so you have one positive wire, one negative wire, and that's how you would attach the lights and stuff. So it's a neat spot. There's a lot of graffiti out there now, and a lot of people have gone out there. Unfortunately, currently, the only way to get out there is not commonly accessible, and most people would try an illegal route, which would be bad for me to explain how to get out there. The only legal way that I know of getting anywhere close to it is the waterways in California are public space, and if you go out there on a kayak, you can get close. Technically, if you go onto the grounds, you're trespassing on railroad property. From time to time, I have heard that there have been tours that go out there. If I can ever find a tour, if you hear of a tour, let me know. I would love to take this camera out there and show off Drawbridge, the ghost town of the Bay Area. But for now, it's just a legend, I guess you'd say. So this is Don Edwards Wildlife Refuge. It's very close to San Jose and Milpitas and Fremont, very easily accessible from the freeways. And if you need a nice place to walk around, check out their website and check out times. It does close, like today it closes at 4:30. But there is a parking lot just off the property that sometimes you can park at on the evenings and walk in. So, thank you for checking out Don Edwards Park, and I hope you've enjoyed this Stan's 360. Keep exploring your world, keep subscribing to my pages. There is this 360 World, there's 360, well, we're on travel, there's 360 World, there's Stan's 360 Fluky, which is just my random thoughts and blogs. So keep watching, keep exploring your world, and keep leaving me feedback.